Well, here's a few news articles that I thought were interesting. So the Bored Ape Yacht Club, which is the most expensive, most desired NFT collection, decided to sell virtual land in their metaverse. And a lot of it, like 200,000 plots of land, of which they're selling 100,000 or something like that. And this did the same thing that CryptoKitties did back in 2017 or so. It crashed Ethereum. And this is the fundamental problem with Ethereum and with its proof of work. For that matter, there's a similar problem with Bitcoin, but they just hasn't been hit yet. The point is it cannot handle very many transactions per second because it is extremely inefficient. And so the entire Ethereum blockchain system slowed down. And for some reason, what Ethereum does when it slows down is the gas fees go up. So people were trying to make transactions. Here was someone who's making a $25 purchase, and they had to pay a $3,300 transaction fee. So that's insane. I've never seen Ethereum's transaction fee get that high, but it gets very high. And so this shows a serious problem with the Ethereum network. And for years, I've been hearing about layer 2 blockchain networks to fix this problem. And if you take my crypto class we were setting out last semester for Bitcoin, there are already layer 2s. They're using them in El Salvador that combine many transactions and keep a whole bunch of them off the blockchain into one grouped transaction. And that lowers the transaction fee drastically. Anyway, so Ethereum 2 is coming out later this year. I think it was June. It might be a little bit later now, which will be proof of stake, which will probably be able to handle a much larger load at the cost of less security. So we'll see how it all works out. But it seems to me like, I think this sort of ended with the usual thing. Yeah, if it's this expensive to use and this unreliable, this is just an alpha product. And that's one fundamental problem with the entire digital currency market space. All these products are so crappy, so poorly written, and so full of really serious bugs that it is horrifying to see people trust large amounts of money to this miserable software that has serious security defects and crashes right and left and can't really handle the load when a product gets popular and so on. Anyway, these guys say they're just going to have to make their own blockchain just for the Bored Apes. And that's one option. They could also move to a more efficient blockchain. Solana, I think, could probably handle the load. There are more modern blockchains. Ethereum is getting kind of long in the tooth. Anyway, that's the latest disaster in Ethereum. And this I thought was very interesting. You hear all the culture war people screaming like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz and all that about how the teachers are corrupting the morals of our students and stuff. But they surveyed people. And most people, of both Republicans and Democrats, feel like what's going on in school is fine. Their kids are getting a good education. There's nobody perverting them or grooming them to be pedophile targets or anything stupid like that. All this noise we're hearing is just a small percentage of people on the far right that are pushing this crazy culture war stuff. Most people wish they would just knock it off. So that's reassuring. It does suggest that most Republicans are not as crazy as the noisy ones you hear. So this is kind of entertaining. Something about the Canadian Criminal Code said that when didn't include space correctly, so when astronauts are in space, they could not be punished for crimes committed there, if you can find any crimes to commit there. So they're amending their code to say that Canadian laws do apply to Canadian asteroids while they're in orbit. So that should reassure any of you that were worried about them committing crimes. Wikipedia took cryptocurrency donations, but they have now turned them off. They have decided, through some kind of vote of the board, that most of them feel like cryptocurrency is not a good idea. It wastes too much energy. It's bad for the environment. It's full of scams, and they just don't want to participate in it anymore, so they are not going to accept cryptocurrency donations. Most places that do decide to accept cryptocurrency do discover that it is difficult and complicated to set up, and very few people want to use it anyway. So it's probably more bother than it's worth for most people. Elon Musk talks a lot about crypto. I wonder if you can buy a Tesla with Dogecoin yet. He's talked about that, but I'm not sure you can do it yet. And this one, was pretty good using a reentrancy attack, which we covered in the cryptography class, and I'll be covering in all my cryptography and blockchain security workshops this summer, which is a particular peculiarity of Solidity, the language for smart contracts on Ethereum, which is the main one in use. It has a bizarre property that when you send money to someone, this is done by executing code in their contract under your control. So the ability to receive money, unless you program it very carefully, gives anybody that sends you money code execution privileges on your contract. And that's called a reentrancy attack. And it was used to steal for quite a few of the major hacks, and now they stole another 80 million through a couple of decentralized finance platforms with reentrancy attacks. So the serious big hacks come at the rate of once a week or so. And eventually, I think people will begin to be interested in securing their smart contracts. Gonorrhea is becoming untreatable. It's resisting the antibiotics we're using for it and so on, but they're hoping a vaccine might help, and it turns out there is a vaccine for a related illness, meningococcal disease, whatever that is, and it turns out if you just give them the vaccine for that other illness, it has 40% effect preventing gonorrhea, which is not bad. So vaccinating people against gonorrhea might be the best thing to do. They don't talk about it in this article, but the other articles about the COVID vaccine say that the technology used to make these RNA vaccines that we're using could be extended to a lot of things, and I would imagine they could probably make one for gonorrhea. But I haven't heard anybody say they're making it yet. This is quite interesting, I think. This guy is talking about the difference between the three major cloud providers, Amazon, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. And what he says, I didn't know this because I'm just using free accounts on all of them. I haven't tried customer service. Said Google Cloud Platform has disdain for customers. He said they treat you very badly, a scathing indictment of how they view customers. So you will call them with a problem and they will just say, oh no, we can see on the data here your problem doesn't exist. And that doesn't make people feel good at all. He said Azure, Azure just does nothing when you complain, he says. But they don't insult you and tell you that the data is not real. And Amazon has apparently the best. I've seen it. Amazon, I think, has some rules for all of them, and they say the customer's experience is first. You must make sure that every customer feels valued. You must treat the customers with respect and meet their needs. They're real big on customer service. And so apparently this applies to their cloud offerings also. So if you call them and you have trouble, they will really be respectful and helpful. So that makes sense. They're also the most expensive. And it would make sense that the expensive product gives you better customer service. And Moderna is making a custom Omicron booster. All of us that have been getting vaccines and boosters, we're all getting repeated shots of the same old stuff from more than a year ago, which is really not optimized for the modern versions of coronavirus. And so Moderna expects to have the specialized new version available by fall, and that would probably be better. And people are saying the vaccination effect falls in 3 or 4 months and causes recurring waves every 5 to 6 months. So it looks like we're going to have to keep getting boosters, perhaps more frequently, perhaps more often than once a year. It might be every 6 months or something, although there are no clear plans yet. All right. And this one is interesting. And this one. So this is, I don't know if any of you remember this, maybe 8 years ago there was a Deep Throat account of a Microsoft worker that went on Twitter or Facebook and started tweeting what really happened inside Microsoft from worker. And it took Microsoft about 2 years to hunt down and fire this person and change the Microsoft company culture greatly by exposing the things they do that all the workers hated. And in a similar vein, there is an account on Instagram from a black male staffer, or so he says, on Capitol Hill, exposing the racism, the abuse, the contempt, and everything that happens. What he does is ask people, choose a topic, and then ask people to please anonymously complain with secret messages on Instagram, and he will then anonymize them and post them publicly. And this is called Dear White Staffers, based after a movie called Dear White People, where a black person tries to explain to white people, what their life is like and how they are being casually racist. So anyway, it seems very productive, very helpful, and but it's only going to work as long as he hides his identity. These people are, of course, hated by management everywhere. A bunch of people have tried to find him and punish him and fire him, but they haven't found him yet. He even gave his only interview to this journalist over some chat channel. He said he actually revealed his identity to the journalist who agreed to hide it. I don't know why they did that, but perhaps so the journalist would believe he really was a worker. So anyway, they talk about some places are good to work, some places are emotionally abusive and bully people and such. And you can find out what's really happening on Capitol Hill. Does seem like it would be a pretty high-stress, miserable environment. Serving in Congress, or for that matter, the Senate, looks awful now. And that's why there have been a lot of people retiring. Even when they're young and they can go on, they say, I just don't want to keep working here anymore. All you do is go to work every day and get insulted and abused, and then you get death threats from people, and it's just not worth it. And you can't get anything done because whatever you put out, the other side just blocks it. And you see, I'm just wasting my life here. I'm going to go get a different job. And so the far right, after effectively banning abortion in many states, that's trumpeting forward. They've now been talking about banning birth control, and now they want to ban birth certificates that don't always say male or female, that permit any other option, as they attack trans rights. They already said they want to go after gay marriage, and so and they just seem to be roaring ahead full steam. There doesn't seem to be any force stopping them from just going further and further right. I haven't heard them talk about reinstituting slavery yet, but that would be the next logical step. Maybe that'll be after Trump gets back in power or something. Or maybe some force will stop them before they go that far. But so far, no force seems to stop the mad race to the right to just turn the clock back. Anyway, that's it for the news.